LexisNexis celebrates 125 years of Mathew Bender, honoring our past by forging the future of legal publishing.
My name is Michael Gerrard. I'm the Andrew Sabin Professor of Professional Practice and the Director of the Center for Climate Change Law at Columbia Law School, and I'm also Senior Counsel to the law firm of Arnold & Porter. I've edited 3 treatises for Mathew Bender: Environmental Impact Review in New York, which is now 2 volumes, the Environmental Law Practice Guide, which is now 12 volumes, and Brownfields Law and Practice, 4 volumes. In addition, we produce a monthly newsletter called Environmental Law in New York. In 1987, I was at a New York State Bar Association meeting with Daniel Ruzzo, who is an environmental lawyer in Albany. We both had been doing a lot of work under a New York law called the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and we were remarking that the world could really use a book on the subject. It's an important law with a lot of case law, but it was confused and all over the place. So Dan and I decided that it would be fun to co-author a book. It happened that Dan was friendly with Mr. Mathew Bender IV, who lived in Albany, and he arranged for the 3 of us to meet. Mr. Bender thought that it was a good idea. He talked to his editors, and we were off to the races. A combination of things. I've always liked to write. I started out as a journalist before I decided to go to law school, and had written many articles at that point. I thought that there was really a need for this book, and given the profusion of case law all around. And Mathew Bender seemed to be the perfect publisher for it. They were a well-established legal publisher with a good imprint, a good reputation, and they knew how to get books out the door and then how to sell them. Well, as we were completing work on the first book, on Environmental Impact Review in New York, some of the senior editors of Mathew Bender came to me, and they said that they concluded that there was a need for and a market for a comprehensive set of books that, to be called an Environmental Law Practice Guide. And they asked me if I would be willing to be the general editor of that set. And after a lot of thought, I decided to do that because I thought that this would be very helpful to have in one place a comprehensive summary of all of the both federal and state environmental law, and that it would be a challenging project, that I would learn a lot in the process of editing it, that it would give me the opportunity to have interaction with lawyers all over the country who I would recruit to write the chapters. That project went very well. The book received an award as the best law book of the year from the Association of American Publishers. And then about 3 years after that book appeared, Mathew Bender came to me again and said, "We'd like to do another treatise on environmental law. What do you think would be a good topic for such a treatise?" And after thinking about it, I suggested the topic of brownfields, the idea of cleaning up and redeveloping contaminated property. At that time, that was emerging as an extremely important issue. And so we agreed that I would edit for them a treatise on brownfields and the practice of legal issues with redeveloping brownfields. We did that. That book also received the award as the best law book of the year that it was published. So I've had a very happy relationship with Mathew Bender over the years. We continue to update all 3 of these treatises and to put out the Environmental Law in New York newsletter every month. Well, when my first book was published in 1990, it was all hard copies. It was all paper in loose leaf binders, and that was the only way that this information was disseminated. We still have the paper in those leaf binders, but now, of course, many things are also available electronically. The Mathew Bender books are on Lexis, and so there are much different ways to access the material. It's much easier to first do the research for the incoming material to help edit the books, and then there are now a lot more ways that readers can use them. They can do electronic searches, and they can get at this information from a lot of angles in addition to the old-fashioned paper index. Well, we have a very good relationship with editors. There tends to be a lot of longevity, and they're people who we work with over a period of many years, and we get to know them, and we know their styles, and they know our styles. We've been impressed by how professional they are and how dedicated they are to putting out a first-rate legal product. For years, I worked with an editor named Bob LePatin, who was just wonderful, who then moved on to editing other books for Mathew Bender, and for the last several years our principal contact has been Linda Folkman, who continues Bob's tradition of great diligence and care and seriousness about a good work product. Well, I'm always concerned in my work as a practicing litigator that someone will quote one of my books against me. And I do recall one particular instance. I was in court, and my adversary quoted a passage from one of my books and said that this passage shows that Mr. Gerrard is incorrect. And I remembered that, and he had the book with him. I turned the page, and I said, counsel did not turn the page and see the exception that is quoted to that rule, and therefore our point of view should prevail. And in fact, it did. I think that many young lawyers do not fully appreciate the value of treatises. I think that many young lawyers have gotten in the habit of doing word searches for cases online, and they often see lots of trees, but they don't see the forest. One of the things that we try to do in putting together treatises is to take a broad look at what is the state of the law, how do the pieces fit together, and also what are other sources that might be relevant. It's not only cases, it's also regulations, guidance documents, technical studies, lots of other things. So I think that a legal treatise has a special role in legal research that is underappreciated, but the continued publication of all these books is the best evidence that these books continue to be extremely valuable.